"You're home early," Keyshawn said. He wouldn't look at his husband. Bill asked, "Is Frank still here?" "No. Francis left. He just wanted to give me something." And he pointed to the left of the fireplace, to a glass jar. One that was still glazed with the ooze of a black, sluggish brain tumor. But it was empty. Bill choked back a sob. His gun trembled as he aimed it at his husband's head. And then slowly, Keyshawn turned around to face him. Bill Handel looked down the barrel of his gun at the back of his husband's head. Although it wasn't really his husband anymore. A gift from the priest with red hands had been delivered to their home. A jar containing a living, sentient tumor. An unholy thing that was now inside of Keyshawn. The jar was empty, and its contents were swimming through Keyshawn's brain. Bill's finger pulled against the trigger, but stopped. "It's me, William," Keyshawn said. He got up. So much bigger than Bill. Usually that was comforting, but now it was pure menace. "Put the gun down, William. We have much to talk about." Bill lowered the gun and fired. He shot Keyshawn in the leg, in the knee of his prosthetic leg. Keyshawn yelped in pain and surprise. He fell as the damaged leg crumpled under his weight. Bill tossed the gun, well out of crawling range, and jumped on his husband's back. These two sparred often. They trained together. And Bill knew how to apply chokeholds that negated the size difference. Well, theoretically he did. He locked his arms into place around Keyshawn's thick neck and tried to cinch it in tight. But the big man flipped over and tossed Bill like a sack of laundry. "Francis said you would react this way," Keyshawn said. He was distracted by the state of his leg and not paying too much attention to Bill, as if he wasn't a threat. "All you have to do is listen to him, William. It's really incredible." Bill grabbed the thick glass jar that the tumor had arrived in and smashed it across Keyshawn's skull. Then he dropped to his knees and locked in that sleeper hold again, really pressing down on both sides of his husband's neck, restricting the blood flow to his newly corrupted brain. When he was quite unconscious, Bill let him go long enough to cuff him hand and foot. Then he gently kissed Keyshawn on the side of the neck. "I'm not going to give up on you. I will fix this." Some half an hour later, Bill was standing near the hearth, watching the dying fire that Keyshawn had built. Lefty entered the room. "What took you?" he asked her. Holy shit, is that Keyshawn? What happened?" Without looking at her, Bill told his trusted agent and friend about the gift that had been delivered from Frank Rourke. Lefty swore under her breath and checked her sidearm. "You should really be the one to do it, boss. But I understand if you can. I'm here for you if you can't pull the trigger." He shook his head. "No. You have to. You know that. It's the only way. It's not him anymore, Bill. You know that. If you love him, you need to end this for him. You can't keep him trapped inside his own body like this, making him watch while they use it to do things to other people. It's cruel. Keyshawn would never want that." Bill nodded. "Yeah, it is cruel, I agree. But he won't have a chance to do anything. Boss, there's no coming back from where he is. Maybe. Maybe not. I have an idea." "Is it a good idea?" "No. Most assuredly not. But it's our only shot. Call Lila Ambrose." Continuing from the events of the Dark Agent and Company Man, this is the ongoing story of DRO agent Bill Handel and what he is willing to do to save his husband. His last hope lays with the only known survivor. Drinking whiskey in the kitchen and telling scary stories around the fire. Music, monsters, and mayhem, killers, cannibals, and cults, fearful fiction and furious fact, tall tales, and terrible truths. This is a scary home companion. Lefty was firmly against this plan. She tried to talk Bill out of it, but found that his mind was set. Lila Ambrose had told him that Project Punchbowl recently had successfully removed one of these living brain tumors, these emissaries. Ambrose had few details beyond that, but she was quite sure that her sources were reliable. Bill would have to handle it all personally. He didn't trust the DRO, nor anyone outside of a small handful of people. Lefty tried to give him counsel. "You can't do this to spite Rourke, Bill." He explained to her, "Rourke doesn't want me to kill Keyshawn. I don't think he's trying to break me, Lefty. He's trying to recruit me. He brought Keyshawn over to his side because he wants me to follow. I don't know if it's because there's still some part of Frank in there and he likes me on some level, or if it's just that thing inside of him sees me as a valuable asset. Or, she countered, or he is hoping that you do just what you are planning to do. You said that he's been asking you about Punch Bowl. He can't find it. But he knows you can. And now he's given you a reason, a cause to lead him to it. Are you just going to take him there? I hope that it doesn't come to that. But I'm willing to take the chance. I have to do everything that I can to save Keyshawn. You understand that, right? If you don't want to back me up, I applaud your wisdom. That's the smart play. I won't hold it against you, Lefty. Oh, hell, she rolled her eyes. I didn't say I wasn't going to help you. Just trying to talk some sense into you first. Shit. So what's the plan? First, we need Keyshawn contained. Bound, gagged, blindfolded, sedated, ready for transport. We can't let him out of our sight. We can't let him do something that he would live to regret. Where are we taking him? I'm not sure yet. I need to speak with Kevin Koja. Kevin Koja was one of the few agents besides Lefty that Bill truly trusted. They had worked together off and on throughout several projects over the years. Koja had also once had a detail with Project Punch Bowl. In 2012, he had gone into the field and collected a living specimen. He had found one of the emissaries and brought it home. Koja had never confided any more than that to Bill, and Bill had never pushed him on it. He had respected the man's code of secrecy. Until now. Kevin Koja slept naked, with his gun on the nightstand and his house shoes next to the bed. Awake or asleep, his phone was always in his hand. He woke up on instinct before the phone had even started to vibrate, and he recognized the number. Hey, Bill. Kevin, I trust you. Do you trust me? A little confused, Kevin Koja sat up, shaking off the cobwebs. Of course I do. What? What's happening, Bill? Kevin, I've never asked you to break a confidence, have I? We've always been straight with one another. I'm trying to set the table here because I have something very serious to ask you. Kevin, I was faced with a choice tonight. I need to ask you to violate your code of personal ethics and to break a confidence to the DRO for my own personal reasons. It's incredibly selfish, I know, but it's also just that important to me. So the choice I faced tonight was if I should kick down your front door, stick a gun in your face, and demand the answers that I need, or if I should just call you, man to man, agent to agent, maybe even friend to friend, and confess my needs to you and throw myself on your mercy. Kevin, it's Keyshawn. He briefly explained the situation to Kevin. So you understand why I need to know what you know about Project Punchbowl. I will deny your name to the end. No one will ever know. But I need you to guide me to the front doors of the facility. And if you do that, then Bill, I understand. This isn't about work. This is your husband. I get it. Let's meet. Let's talk. The line went dead. Slowly, the door between the bedroom and the bathroom swung open. And there was Bill Handel, who had the good manners to hide his gun before he entered the room. Thank you so much, Kevin. Let's talk. Over the next hour, they drank coffee, and Kevin Koja, now fully dressed, told Bill everything that he knew about Project Punchbowl. He had only worked there for a few months and visited the facility just twice, and even then he had never made it past the front security checkpoints. But he was able to explain what the program was and what they were doing in there. It didn't surprise Bill at this point. Nothing could surprise him. But it was still deeply upsetting. His old mentor, Jonestown, might be dead, but the man's ghoulish legacy lived on in the darkest corners of the DRO. Koja told Bill where to find the facility, and then sluggishly asked if he should come along as backup. Bill was already headed for the door. Backup for what? Boss, I feel bad staying behind. Kevin, how could you have known? You had no idea about any of this, did you? And with that, Bill was gone. The DRO medical testing facility that housed Project Punchbowl was about an hour outside of Roanoke, Virginia. It wasn't a very long drive at all. They could make it before daybreak. In the back seat, Keyshawn was bound hand and foot, full containment gloves and a blackout hood. Lefty drove. Bill talked softly, explaining to her everything that he had learned. He was trusting her 100%, and she was helping him when she shouldn't have. So she needed to know everything that he knew. It started in 1972. There was a ghost ship, a freighter. The sole survivor had gone feral, eating rat meat. When they subdued him and autopsied him, they found something in his brain. This would be the foundation of Project Punchbowl. Their first test was to put it into a person and try and communicate with it. They called this man the radio, and they kept waiting for a message. They kept the man in a room where he would be safe and healthy, and where they could study his every action. They knew that there were other slugs out there, emissaries, They weren't using that word yet. They called them turds. What? Lefty asked. It was a little in-joke from the boys on the project. The punch bowl is what they called a scooped-out brain pan. And one of these things, well, it was a turd in the punch bowl. I think I actually prefer that to calling it an emissary, Lefty said. They were too late to pull the emissary from Barbed Wire Henry, but they did find others, and once they had multiple specimens, they could ramp up and diversify their experiments. These things aren't tumors, nor are they slugs, Lefty. Koja says that they are single-celled organisms, like a virus, only much bigger, and alive, but not in a way that they could ever figure out. They're neither carbon nor silicone based, and they're asexual with no means of reproduction or division. Apparently, they didn't need air or nutrients to survive for any amount of time in seclusion. Eventually, our boys discovered that these things were susceptible to certain types of microwave radiation. But the mere learning of that, getting to that fact, wiped out most of the specimens that they had. The original slug was still in the radio, and it was the only one they had left. So they harvested it and put it into storage. In 2003, we sent Murder 1 and Murder 2 to Nazino Island, a full war party to protect a top-tier science team. All agents were lost. One scientist was recovered some days later, but he had been infected. The emissary they took from him jump-started Project Punch Bowl once again. Now they were infecting people with emissaries and then releasing them back into society to study their behavior in the wild. And they did this for some years. They kept using agents to collect new specimens whenever possible. Most of these emissaries that they reintroduced into society managed to escape. When they were down to 3 specimens left, they couldn't afford to keep releasing emissaries back out there, so they decided the next step was to perfect a removal procedure. The reasoning being, if they could successfully remove an emissary and then interview the host, it should yield valuable new insights into what that creature was and how it operated, how it interfaced with the people that it occupied. Some months ago, they began infecting people and then surgically removing the emissary while attempting to keep the patients alive. They went through several dozen people. Recruits, washouts, convicts, anyone of relatively sound mind who they could make disappear. They never got it right. Everyone died. Until recently. According to Lila Ambrose, a few weeks ago, a patient survived the process. If her source is right and they have perfected this procedure, Lefty, this is a risk worth taking. He paused, setting aside his optimism for something that felt more natural. And if he dies, at least it was in pursuit of something. The edge of night bled through with purple and gold behind the trees that ran along the top of the ridge. They left the 2-lane and took gravel past an abandoned security checkpoint, and then a second abandoned security checkpoint. The main guard post, which was a quarter-mile from the facility, was staffed only with one woman. She approached the car in full body armor. Although they had never actually met before, Bill still recognized her, as he had trained himself to remember everyone that he crossed paths with. "All package delivery is suspended," the guard snapped. She had her hand on her sidearm, the other hand on her walkie. Slowly, gently, Bill held up his ID and handed it over. The agent paled when she recognized his name. "Sir, I'm sorry, I wasn't told that." "No one was told, Agent Dearborn. It's okay." "So then, you're already debriefed on the situation? I was told this was being handled internally. You're going to need to talk to the detail chief." "Agent Dearborn, you know who I am. You know I outrank everyone here, so tell me what's happening and then get your chief here now." "One of the patients killed a few of the guards and took some doctors hostage. It's a standoff." Lefty sat in the car. Keyshawn was a silent lump in the back seat. Bill was bathed in her headlights, huddled up with a small circle of agents wearing combat gear. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but it was clear by the looks on their faces that Bill was pulling rank, and that they liked it none too much. On the dashboard, in the darkness of the car's interior, Bill's phone lit up and hummed. The word Frank shone like a beacon. Lefty didn't think twice about answering it. "Frank Rourke," she said with all due cordiality. "How's tricks, old-timer?" There was a pause. "Where is Bill?" "He's occupied. Bill lost a friend tonight." "Oh, do you mean dear Keyshawn? Such sad business." "Bill's digging the grave with his own hands. He's burying his husband. That's on account of you." There was another pause. "You're lying." "He didn't want to kill Keyshawn. I sort of forced his hand, although I guess it wasn't really me, was it? It was you that forced his hand tonight." "Keyshawn still lives. I know. I can feel it. We share a bond now, he and I. He's in the car with you, isn't he? Outside of Roanoke, somewhere. I have eyes and ears everywhere, Lee." "That's right. I know who you are, Agent Lee Enright. I know the things you do in the name of your work. I know the dreams that plague you and click, she hung up on him. Bill got back in the car. Who was on the phone? Your pal? I told him you were burying Keyshawn in the backyard. He knows where we are, not exactly, but close. Did he know that you were lying? Not exactly, but close. Bill had ordered all the DRO security agents pulled back from the facility. They had all been concentrated around the main entrance, having the ability to contain the problem, but not the leadership to confront it. When they were all gone, Lefty drove up to the front of the building. She was to remain in the car with Keyshawn while Bill went inside and negotiated with the patient. Bill had been given the full sit rep. This patient had taken out the inside agents and then secured the skeleton crew medical staff in the head security office. They had full control of the cameras and the armory. Bill walked up to the steel doors, set in the cement bunker-like facade of the building. He stripped off his jacket, unhooked his shoulder holster, and dropped his gun. Then he pulled up his starched shirt and the undershirt, showing bare skin all around his torso. No weapons, no tricks, nothing up his sleeve. Then he held up his ID for the camera to see quite clearly before using it to open those doors. There was blood on the inside floor. A dead agent lay nearby, curled up into a fetal position during his final moments. Another corpse lay halfway across the room, sprawled out in full repose, chest adorned with red blossoms and blooms. "Do you recognize me?" Bill asked the nearest security camera. "They told me your name. We've met. You know that, don't you? It was a long time ago. I don't know if you remember." He slowly walked past the empty security checkpoints and into the facility itself. "You were so little. Your father did something horrible, but he spared you. My partner Frank and I talked to you. We talked to a lot of little girls those days. But I remember you because you were so determined to prove that it wasn't your daddy's fault. You remember that. It was the jagged man who made him do it. You were so sure." A door at the end of the hallway opened up. A man emerged, with his hands folded across his chest and bound with tape, and a matching swatch of it around his face. He had a lumpy bruise on the side of his head, but looked to otherwise be in good health. The patient stood behind him, so small she swum in his shadow. She had one gun aimed at the doctor and the other aimed at Bill. "Do you remember me, Sadie?" he asked her. She nodded. "Yeah, I remember. You're with them. You're with him." She jabbed the doctor with her gun barrel. "You're all in this together, experimenting on people, killing people." Her bald head was lumpy and still swathed in bandages after weeks of healing. She was crisscrossed with scars, and the skin of her scalp looked gnarled and matted. Bill saw pure terror in her eyes, and he understood that. Here she was, subjected to something utterly inhuman and outside of her control. Who knows what she had seen or felt or experienced when that thing had been inside of her brain? And then they plucked it out, leaving her misshapen, in agony, and imprisoned. Her whole life had been taken from her, and she had no way out. Bill needed to give her one. Sadie, you don't have any cause to believe me, but I had nothing to do with this project. I just learned about it, and I'm here because I need help. I'm asking you to give me 5 minutes alone. You and me can work this out, and no one else has to die. Go ahead, talk. No. He was firm. I don't trust this guy. Dr. Fallow, right? No. I'm unarmed. You can shoot me dead if I have it coming, but you gotta get rid of him. He cannot hear what I have to say to you. Sadie narrowed her eyes. A vein in her temple throbbed, and she nodded. The doctor went back into the room. The door was closed. I never knew this place existed. I only found out now because I needed to. I have an enemy, Sadie. And to get at me, my enemy put one of those things into the brain of my husband. His name is Keyshawn. He's okay for now. I tied him up so he couldn't hurt anyone or do anything. And then I started digging, and I dug down until I found this place because it's the only place in the world that might be able to help him. He didn't ask for this, not any more than you did. They tricked you, didn't they? She nodded. The gun stayed aimed at Bill's heart. You didn't deserve this, and neither does Keyshawn. He's such a sweet man. He's strong. He thinks he's good at making crepes, but he isn't. He's terrible. His favorite movie is The Fox and the Hound. The Fox and the fucking Hound. Could you believe that? And a single tear rolled from a crystal clear eye. I'll give you whatever you want. Just give me this chance for my husband. I need those doctors. She asked him, what can you possibly give me that would be enough? For starters, I can give you a shot at a new life. I can get you out of here, off the grid, and away. You'd have a chance. I don't know what other demons you have, but I could keep the DRO off of you. She shook her head. Not enough. I have nowhere to go. How do you think I ended up here in the first place? I have nothing. Escaping these walls? That's the easy part. I have a friend who... It sounded wrong as soon as he said it. A friend? She asked. An ally. She and I have the same enemies. The man who's after me, she knows him. And if there is anyone who can protect you, it's her. His smile appeared and then brightened as the brilliance of the idea settled in on him. Sadie, please, let me make a phone call. I think I know how we can help each other. Finally, she lowered her gun. You were kind to me back then, Bill. You made me think the Urrru were all like you. They aren't. They deserve to die. Sadie, I believe you. I agree with you. They deserve to die. You deserve to be the one to do it. But Keyshawn deserves to live. He deserves a chance. She sighed. Fox and the Hound? Really? He nodded. I'm not like them, he said. Prove it. 7 DRO agents had been killed by Sadie Jane Casper. This did not concern Bill Handel, because the entire surgical team was still intact, even if a little shaken and dinged up in the process. Bill made it clear to them that they were being given one purview, and until that purview was met, they were to consider themselves as still being hostages. They were just his hostages now. They needed to work their magic on Keyshawn, to remove whatever was inside of him, and to keep him alive. Until then, there would be no escape, and there would be no contact with the outside world for any of them. Bill Handel had taken command of Project Punchbowl, and Lefty had been made security chief. Bill called Lila Ambrose and told her the situation. They had someone here who had been an emissary and had come back from it. As a resource, Sadie Jane had limitless potential. Lila vowed to him, "You get her to Florida, and I'll take care of her." And she meant it. But that in and of itself posed a problem, because Bill could not avail himself of DRO resources in this case. No planes, no armored transports, no security details. Nobody could know where Sadie went. She needed to get to Florida, some 900 miles away, quickly, quietly, and with no protection. "Boss," Lefty offered, "we know someone who could drive her. She's local, could be here in about an hour if she's sober." Bill stepped forward and shook Lefty's hand. "Do it. Call her. Get it done. I need to go be with Keyshawn. We're going in as soon as possible. Make sure Sadie is safe." They walked away from each other. Lefty calling out to her ace in the hole, and Bill heading for the operating theater. Neither one looked back.
And all the stones you've thrown, they come back twice as strong. And all the stones
They weren't just a biker club. They were the worst of the worst criminal scum. Men banded together in debauchery. And then they found the book. The accursed book called The Ghastly Ones, and they were shown a new way, an even darker path, and became a biker cult of meth-fueled murder and mayhem. And now these men, these monsters, have been called into service by the priest with red hands to bring him the head of Sadie Jane. Only one person can protect her, can get her to safety. Legendary driver Lurleen Stokes. In 2 exclusive episodes, Death Rides. Only on Patreon. Thank you for listening to another episode of A Scary Home Companion. If you'd like to learn more about Agent Bill Handel, you can jump back a few episodes and get his full life story in A Life of Death, The Dark Agent, and Company Man. You can find the show on social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and Instagram. Or contact us directly at ascaryhomecompanion@gmail.com. Support the show by leaving a review, buying some of our merch on Redbubble, or sign up for the Patreon. As you just heard, we have on deck an epic 2-part action-packed thrill ride exclusively on Patreon. This will make the 3rd exclusive episode this season, with many more to come in future seasons. Join the Patreon today for these bonus episodes, plus scripts, analysis, and a whole lot more. This episode was edited and produced by Jeff Davidson and featured music by Dark Urrru with Middle Hunt, Rozkol with Kill With My Heart, Lately Kind of Yeah with Friends Are Evil, Marilyn Roxy with Bad Motorcycle, my boy AK'Chamel, the Giver of Illness, with the tune Cancer Eclipsed the Sun. And as always, Chelsea Oxendine with the theme music.